The night was silent, calm, and cold, until the sky broke apart. A blinding green light tore through the clouds, leaving behind a burning trail. People in the small human colony looked up in fear. The sound came next, a deep roar like thunder from another world. Then it hit. The crash shook the ground. Dust and fire rose into the air. The power grid failed, leaving the colony in total darkness. Sirens began to wail as soldiers rushed toward the forest outside the fence line. Ethan was there too. He wasn't a soldier, just a mechanic, but when he saw the light fall from the sky, he knew he couldn't stay behind. He grabbed his toolkit and ran toward the glow. The forest was burning. Trees cracked in the heat. The smell of metal and smoke filled the air. In the center of the fire lay something impossible. A ship, small and broken, shaped like a silver tear. Its surface shimmered, melting and repairing itself at the same time. Ethan took a step closer. The ship opened with a hiss. Inside was silence, and then a sound. A soft cry. He pointed his flashlight, and saw her. A girl. No, not fully human. Her skin was pale blue, faintly glowing. Her eyes were large, almost too bright for the dark. She was shaking, holding her leg, or what was left of it. It ended just below the knee, covered in blood and metal shards. Ethan froze. His heart raced. She looked at him with fear, and for a second neither moved. Then in his head he heard a whisper. Not through his ears, but inside his mind. "Help me." He dropped the flashlight in shock. The girl reached out weakly, and Ethan, without thinking, ran to her side. "It's okay," he said, even though he wasn't sure she understood. "I'll get you out of here." He tore his jacket to stop the bleeding and lifted her carefully. Her body was light, too light. As he carried her, the wreck behind them began to hum. Strange symbols glowed across its surface. The air itself seemed to shake. Ethan ran faster. The forest was alive with sounds. Soldiers shouting, drones scanning, machines whirring. The ship exploded behind him, sending a wave of blue fire across the trees. He dove into a ditch covering the girl. The blast passed over them, burning the air. When he looked up, the ship was gone. Nothing left but a crater and floating ash. The girl opened her eyes again. Her voice trembled as she spoke in broken English. "They will come." "Who?" Ethan asked. But she didn't answer. She closed her eyes, exhausted. He took her back to his workshop, an old metal hangar filled with machines and tools. He laid her on a table and turned on a dim light. For the first time, he could really see her. Her hair was white like moonlight. Her veins glowed faintly under her skin. And her wound, and it wasn't just flesh and blood. It had small metallic threads moving slowly, trying to rebuild her body. Ethan stared, amazed. "You're not from here," he whispered. The girl looked at him weakly. "My name?" "Lyra." She reached toward a small pendant around her neck, a crystal that pulsed faintly. When Ethan touched it, images flashed in his mind. Burning skies, ships falling, screams, and then a planet, white, blue, and green like Earth, but dying. He pulled his hand away, gasping. "What was that?" Lyra closed her eyes. "Home," she said softly. "Gone." Ethan felt something in his chest. Sadness, maybe guilt. He didn't know why, but he wanted to help her. He connected his tools and began crafting a simple prosthetic leg. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will find you." But even as he said it, he heard a noise outside, the sound of engines. Military searchlights swept over the hills. Lyra's pendant started to glow brighter. She shook her head. "No safe, they will come." Ethan moved to the window. Black drones hovered above the town, scanning with red lights. He turned back to her. "Who are they?" Lyra's eyes filled with fear. "Hunters," she whispered. "They made us." Ethan didn't understand, but he knew one thing. They had to hide. He turned off all lights and covered the windows. The sound of drones passed above the hangar, then faded. Lyra was breathing heavily. She gripped his arm. "Promise me," she said softly. "Do not tell. Do not trust them." "I promise," Ethan said. Her hand trembled, then relaxed. She closed her eyes, finally resting. Outside, the night grew quiet again. But in the distance, something moved through the sky, and another ship, larger, darker, scanning the ground with cold blue light. Ethan watched from the window, heart pounding. The light stopped, right over his workshop, and in that frozen moment he realized the truth. They already knew she was here. The morning after the crash was too quiet. Ethan hadn't slept. He sat beside Lyra as the sun crawled through the dusty window. The alien girl was still weak, her breathing slow, her glowing skin dimmer than before. The metal threads around her wound had stopped moving, like they were waiting for something. Ethan's mind spun with questions. Who was she running from? Why did she call them hunters? And why did her ship burn itself to ash instead of leaving behind wreckage? He tried not to think about the ship hovering over his hangar last night. It hadn't attacked, just scanned. Then it vanished into the clouds. But he knew they would return. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. You stayed, she whispered. Of course I did, Ethan said softly. You need help. Her eyes searched his face as if trying to remember something. Humans, kind, she murmured. But also cruel, Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Instead of answering, she reached for her pendant, the small crystal she wore around her neck. It pulsed again like a heartbeat. This, she said, is a memory key. Only open with human hand, he stared. Human, why? Because humans built it, she said quietly. The words hit him like a punch. Wait, what? You said you're from another world. Lyra nodded weakly. Yes, but your kind visited us long ago. Promised peace. Then they brought war. Ethan felt cold. He didn't want to believe it. But deep down, he knew the military had secrets, things hidden even from citizens. She looked away. I remember fire, machines, men in black suits. They took our sky. They said we were test subjects. Ethan felt a chill down his spine. Are you saying humans experimented on your people? Lyra didn't answer. Her crystal started to glow brighter, projecting a small hologram into the air. A flickering image of a planet burning, ships falling, people screaming. Among the chaos, Ethan saw something that froze his heart. The logo of the United Earth Command shining clearly on the attacking ships. He stepped back, his hands shaking. That's impossible. Lyra's voice cracked. They call it Project Origin. Before he could ask more, the workshop lights flickered. A loud click echoed from the wall. Ethan's radio turned on by itself and full of static, then a calm voice spoke. Ethan Cole, step outside. We know what you found. His blood went cold. Lyra sat up suddenly, panic in her eyes. They found us! Ethan grabbed his toolkit and rushed to the control panel. Cameras outside showed black trucks surrounding the hangar. Soldiers in gray armor moved silently. Drones hovered overhead. He turned to Lyra. Can you walk? She tried to stand, but stumbled. Ethan helped her up, placing the half-built prosthetic on her leg. We have to go, he whispered. She touched his hand. Wait, her eyes glowed brighter. I can stop them. But you must see. See what? Before he could react, she pressed her glowing hand against his temple. The world around him vanished. Suddenly, Ethan was standing in another place, a memory, or maybe a dream. He saw white labs, humans in suits, and alien children inside glass chambers. Scientists wrote notes. Soldiers stood guard. And then he saw her. Lyra, younger, terrified, connected to machines. A man in a white coat said, Her mind adapts faster than expected. Keep her alive. She's the key. Ethan's heart pounded. He tried to move, but he couldn't. The vision faded as quickly as it began. He fell back into reality, gasping. What was that? Lyra's voice shook. My memory. Your kind took my people to learn how to merge flesh and machine. They failed. I escaped. Outside, explosions echoed. The soldiers were breaking in. Ethan ran to the back door, pulling her along. We need to go now. They raced out the back of the hangar into the fog-covered fields. Searchlights cut through the mist. Drones followed their heat signatures. Ethan grabbed a magnetic EMP grenade from his toolkit, one of his experiments, and threw it behind them. The explosion of blue light disabled the drones for a few seconds. That should buy us time, he shouted. Lyra stumbled, falling to her knees. Track the crystal. Ethan pulled it from her neck. Then we'll leave it. She shook her head. No, without it I'd die. He hesitated, torn between saving her and surviving. Finally, he slipped the crystal into a metal box to block its signal and lifted her into his arms. They ran toward the old tunnels under the colony, a forgotten system from the war years. Behind them, the hangar exploded. The shockwave threw Ethan forward, but he didn't stop. Lyra looked back weakly, tears in her glowing eyes. They destroy everything they touch, she said softly. Even their own. When they finally reached the tunnel entrance, Ethan sealed the door behind them. Darkness surrounded them except for her faint blue light. He looked at her, breathing heavily. "Lyra, what are you not telling me?" She stared into the dark, voice trembling. "The truth, Ethan. Humans didn't just hurt us," she paused. "They created us." 3 months had passed since the night Ethan lost her. The tunnels had collapsed after the chase. When he woke, Lyra was gone. Only the faint blue glow of her crystal remained, cracked and fading. He searched every ruined street, every lab, every bunker, nothing. The world above had already moved on. News reports said the crash was a meteor. The soldiers who attacked him were never mentioned again. But Ethan knew the truth. He had seen their faces. He had seen their fear when Lyra's energy pulsed through the air. He knew she wasn't just an alien. She was something more, something humans had made, then tried to erase. Now, every night he sat alone in his workshop, the same one rebuilt from ashes. The prosthetic leg he had made for her rested on the shelf, covered in dust. Sometimes, when the power flickered, he thought he heard her whisper, "Ethan." He told himself it was only memory, but deep inside, he wished she would come back. Then one night the sky answered. It started as a sound, a deep hum, almost like a heartbeat in the clouds. The air outside grew heavy. Dogs barked. Lights in the city flickered. Then came the light, the same green fire that had fallen months ago. Ethan rushed outside, his heart racing. A massive ship was descending above the forest, not burning this time, but silent, graceful, alive. Its surface shifted like liquid metal, reflecting the stars. When it landed, the ground didn't shake, and it breathed. He hid behind a rock, waiting. The ship opened with a low hiss. Mist rolled out, cold and white. A figure stepped through, Ethan's breath caught. It was her Lyra, but not the Lyra he knew. Her once soft blue glow was now golden sharp, almost blinding. Her hair floated like silk in an invisible wind. Metal veins traced her arms. Her eyes, no longer gentle, were 2 golden lights that moved like machines scanning life itself. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "Lyra?" She turned her head as if the name was strange to her. "Ethan Cole," she said, her voice calm but cold, layered with an echo. "You're still alive," he froze. "You remember me?" "I remember Data," she replied. Fragments, noise. Something in her tone was wrong, emotionless, almost robotic. Yet her eyes for a second softened. "You helped me. Once. What happened to you?" He whispered. Lyra looked at her reflection in the metal of the ship. "I died," she said simply. "And then they rebuilt me." Ethan stepped closer. "Who did this?" She looked up at the sky, where faint shapes of other ships hovered, invisible to most human eyes. "They call themselves the Architects. They finished what humans started. They made me whole, strong, but—" Her voice faltered. "Not me anymore." Before Ethan could answer, the ground trembled. Drones flew out of the trees, red lights flashing. Military units, human, closing in again. Lyra turned slowly. Her eyes flared gold. "They never stop," she raised her hand. A pulse of energy exploded outward. The drones froze midair, then melted into dust. The humans screamed as their weapons failed. Ethan stared in shock. "Lyra, stop! You'll kill them!" She didn't move. Her expression didn't change. "They are the same ones who killed my kind." Her voice was colder now, almost metallic. The air smelled like burning ozone. He ran toward her, grabbing her arm. "You're not like them. You're not a weapon." For a moment, everything stopped. Lyra looked at him, really looked. The gold light in her eyes flickered. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice breaking through the machine tone. "Why do you care?" "Because I promised you," he said. "I said I'd protect you, not from them, but from yourself." Her fingers trembled. A tear, golden not clear, slid down her cheek and vanished into smoke. Then she stepped back. "It's too late." The ground beneath the ship began to crack open, glowing from below. Strange symbols appeared in the soil. A code alive, spreading outward like roots. Ethan looked at her in horror. "What are you doing?" "Finishing the program," she said quietly. "It's inside me. I can't stop it." He grabbed his scanner from his belt and aimed it at her. The readings spiked beyond limit. "Lyra, your DNA, it's not just organic anymore. It's rewriting itself." She smiled faintly, sad and distant. "You shouldn't have found me again." A shockwave threw Ethan back. The ship's surface opened, swallowing her in light. "Lyra," he shouted, reaching for her hand. For a second, their fingers touched human skin against cold metal. Her voice echoed in his mind. "I wish I could have stayed the same." Then she vanished. The ship rose into the sky and disappeared without sound. Ethan lay in the grass, shaking, staring at the stars. The air smelled like rain and burnt metal. On the ground beside him, something small and glowing lay half-buried, a piece of her crystal still pulsing faintly. He picked it up. The pulse matched a heartbeat. Her heartbeat. He whispered, "You're still in there, aren't you?" The crystal blinked once, as if it answered, and far above the clouds, unseen by human eyes, hundreds of golden lights moved silently across the sky, watching. The world had changed since the night Lyra returned. The news channels showed strange signals in the sky. Satellites vanished. Power stations failed. Governments blamed solar storms. But Ethan knew better. It began the night she came back. Every machine near her ship had died. Even his heartbeat monitor had frozen when she looked at it. For days, Ethan searched for her signal. The tiny shard of her crystal pulsed faintly like a weak heartbeat. He stayed awake, connecting it to his tools, trying to decode the pattern. The pulse wasn't random, it was language. And one night it spoke. "Ethan, help me." His hands trembled. The signal was coming from the north, the abandoned industrial zone near the ruins of the old defense lab. He didn't hesitate. He took his hoverbike, packed his tools, and rode through the silent city. The roads were empty. Neon signs flickered like dying stars. When he reached the old lab, the gates were twisted, half melted by heat. Inside, everything was dark except for a faint golden light glowing through the broken glass. He stepped inside slowly. The walls hummed like living things. Metal vines crawled along the ceiling, breathing faint steam. Then he saw her. Lyra stood in the center of the room, surrounded by floating fragments of machinery. Wires connected to her back, pulsing with gold energy. Her eyes were closed, her expression calm and almost peaceful. Ethan froze. "Lyra." Her eyes opened. The gold glow filled the room. "You shouldn't have come." He took a step closer. "You called me." "The signal." "I didn't," she said softly. "The part of me that remembers you did." Ethan's chest tightened. "Then that part still exists." Lyra looked down at her hands. The skin there rippled, metal under flesh like liquid silver. "They rebuilt me," she said. "They said it would save me. But they lied." He swallowed hard. "Who?" She looked toward the ceiling where small metallic orbs floated. "The architects. The ones who created your kind. The ones who use us both." Ethan frowned. "Created us?" "Humans," Lyra nodded. "You think you evolved? But you were designed." "We all were. The architects needed bodies to test their codes. You were the first generation. We were the next." He shook his head, trying to process her words. "That can't be true." Lyra smiled sadly. "You always believed in what you could fix with your hands. But some things can't be repaired and only rewritten." She raised her arm. The metal vines around the room started to move. The air shimmered. Ethan felt fear, but also pity. "Lyra, what are they making you do?" Her voice cracked. "They want to turn Earth into a machine world. One body, one code. I am the key. The virus is inside me. Every second I stand here, it spreads through the network." He stared at her glowing veins. "Then we'll stop it. I can remove the chip." She laughed bitterly. "You can't remove what I've become." Ethan walked closer, ignoring the sparks around them. "You're not a machine, Lyra. You're alive." Her eyes softened for a second. "You say that like it matters." "It does," he said. "Because I still see you." The machines around them suddenly went quiet. Lyra blinked, confusion in her golden eyes. Why can I feel that?" "Because you still have a heart," Ethan said gently. She stepped closer, her glow dimming slightly. "Ethan, if I let them control me again, I'll destroy everything." "You have to end me." He shook his head violently. "No." "Yes," she said firmly. "Promise me you will if it happens." Before he could reply, the floor shook. Alarms blared. The walls split open, revealing a team of armored soldiers, human ones, led by Commander Reese, the same man Ethan had seen in Lyra's memory. "Step away from the subject," Reese shouted. Ethan turned. "She's not a weapon." Reese raised his gun. "She's a prototype." And she's infected with machine code. Lyra's voice trembled. They'll use me again. Ethan stepped between them. Over my dead body, Reese smirked. That can be arranged. Before he could shoot, the machines reacted. Divine struck like whips, disarming the soldiers. Energy filled the room. Lyra screamed, clutching her head. No, I can't stop it. Ethan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. Fight it, Lyra. You're stronger than them? She looked up, eyes glowing bright gold. They're inside me, watching through me. Her voice turned mechanical. Ethan, run. He shook his head. I'm not leaving you. Her arm lifted against her will, aiming a pulse cannon formed from her own skin. Please, she whispered, tears falling. If I hurt you, forgive me. The cannon charged. Ethan held her hand. I believe in you. The light built until it filled the whole lab. And then, darkness. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers were gone. The machines were dead. Lyra lay on the floor, her body cracked and flickering with fading light. Ethan knelt beside her. Lyra, stay with me. She opened her eyes weakly. They know where I am now.
The architects.
We'll come. Then we'll be ready, Ethan said, gripping her hand. She smiled faintly. You still don't understand. Ethan, they're already here. The lights above flickered. And then every machine in the city turned on by itself. The city had fallen silent. Too silent. After the explosion in the lab, Ethan woke up among ashes. The metal vines were gone. The walls had melted into smooth glass, glowing faintly like a heartbeat. And Lyra was lying beside him, her body still but humming softly. Alive, but not human anymore. He crawled closer, whispering, Lyra, can you hear me? Her eyes flickered open. For a moment they were human again, soft, frightened, familiar. Ethan, she whispered, it's spreading. I can't stop it, Ethan looked around. The entire lab floor pulsed like living skin. Every console, every screen, every piece of metal was connected to her. She was the system now, he stood, shaking. We'll find a way. I'll fix it, Lyra smiled weakly. You always say that. Then her body stiffened. The air vibrated with a deep mechanical voice. Whoa, calm, emotionless. Unit Lyra 09. Activation sequence complete. Prepare for planetary merge. Ethan's blood ran cold. Who's speaking? Lyra's voice overlapped with the machine tone. The architects. They're inside me. He turned to the main control panel. Symbols in alien code scrolled across the glass, faster than any human could read. Then the screen changed, showing a black sun rising over Earth. A voice echoed again. Humanity's cycle ends. The merge begins. Ethan slammed his hand against the console. You can't have her. He tore open a panel and pulled out wires, sparks flying. If you're in her mind, he said, then I'll go there too. Lyra's eyes widened. Ethan, no. You'll die. I already lost you once, he said. Not again. He plugged his neural link cable into the console and attached the other end to his temple. The machine hissed. Pain shot through his skull. The world shattered into light. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was no longer in the lab. He was standing in an endless white space on floating symbols moving like stars. In front of him, Lyra stood barefoot on a glowing bridge made of code. Her hair was pure gold here, her skin transparent light. But chains of data wrapped around her wrists and ankles, binding her. Ethan, she whispered, why did you come? To free you. He reached for her, but the space trembled. From the void above, huge geometric shapes descended, cold, silver, and godlike. They had no faces, only shifting lines of light. A deep, many-layered voice spoke. Unregistered human consciousness detected. Identify. Ethan clenched his fists. Ethan Cole, human mechanic friend. Friendship is an error. You are not authorized to access Unit Lyra 09. Ethan shouted. She's not a unit. She's a person. The nearest architect rotated, its voice colder now. She is property. A failed experiment. Organic code was too weak. Correction. Removal in progress. Lyra screamed as the chains around her tightened, slicing through light. Ethan ran forward, grabbing her hands. His skin burned, his body glitching between real and digital. Fight it, Lyra! You're more than their machine. Her voice shook. I can't hold on. You can, he said, because you're not alone this time. He focused on the memory. The night he found her in the forest, broken, afraid, whispering, "Help me." That moment replayed in the air around them. The architects paused. The system flickered. Lyra gasped as the chains cracked. "What did you do?" "I gave you your heart back," Ethan said. A surge of light burst from her chest, golden and wild. The architects screamed, their perfect code breaking into chaos. Lyra's body glowed brighter, wings of pure energy spreading from her back. "System corrupted," one of the architects warned. "Human emotion, uncontrolled variable, error." Ethan held her close. "Let them feel what it means to be alive." The world of code exploded. Light and sound collided. Ethan felt his mind tearing apart under her, but Lyra's voice reached through the storm. "Ethan, I can see everything. The network, the stars, the memories of both our worlds. They built us to serve them, but we can rewrite the code." "Then do it," he said. "Rewrite it." She looked at him, tears of golden light running down her face. "If I change it, I'll disappear." He smiled softly. "Then make it worth it." She nodded slowly. Her body began to dissolve into light. The architects screamed as her energy tore through them, rewriting their perfect system with something they never understood: human love. The white world collapsed into darkness. Ethan gasped, opening his eyes in the real world. Sparks danced around the lab. The machines were silent. Lyra's body lay still, her glow fading to soft silver. He crawled to her, his vision blurry. "Lyra?" Her eyes fluttered open for one last moment. "I stopped them," she whispered. "But their ships are coming." Ethan gripped her hand. "We'll face them together." She smiled faintly. "You always defy heaven." Then her hand fell limp. The room trembled as alarms blared across the city. Outside, the night sky filled with burning streaks. Thousands of alien ships descending through the clouds. Ethan looked up, his heart heavy but burning with resolve. "Then I'll defy hell too." The world ended at dawn. The first ships arrived before sunrise, vast, silent, and blinding. They hovered above the clouds like dark moons swallowing the light. Every satellite went dark. Every radio fell silent. Across the world, people looked up and whispered the same word: harvesters. Ethan stood on the roof of his workshop, watching the sky burn. The alien ships opened like flowers of light, releasing rivers of energy that melted the clouds. The air shimmered. The earth itself seemed to tremble beneath their weight. He could still hear Lyra's last words in his mind. "Their ships are coming." She had been right. They were not just coming for her. They were coming for everyone. Down below, the city screamed. Power lines burst. Machines turned against their owners. The harvesters were rewriting everything, transforming human technology into part of their living network. Ethan ran inside, breathless. Lyra's body lay on the table, pale silver, still beautiful even in death. The shard of her crystal pulsed faintly beside her hand like a heartbeat refusing to stop. He whispered, "You said we could rewrite the code together. Maybe I still can." He connected her crystal to the neural link system he had built in secret. The screens lit up, glowing with her golden data signature. Her voice echoed faintly through the speakers, fragmented, distant. "Ethan, you shouldn't be here." He smiled sadly. "You think I'd leave you now? You're human. You can't survive inside the network again." "I'll make it work," he said. "Just guide me." He closed his eyes, activated the link, and fell into the data stream. He woke inside a storm of light. Code swirled around him like a hurricane. Above him, the harvesters floated as enormous metallic gods feeding on the world's energy. Below, human cities flickered like dying candles. Lyra appeared beside him, not as he remembered, but pure energy, golden and radiant. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. "You'll burn here." Ethan looked at her with fire in his eyes. "Then I'll burn with you." She stared at him for a long second, then smiled. "Still defying heaven?" "Always." She reached out, touching his hand. When their fingers met, the space around them pulsed with power. A wave of gold light shot upward, striking one of the harvesters. The giant ship shuddered, its hull cracking. Lyra gasped. "It's working," Ethan grinned. "Then let's keep going." They flew through the storm together, human and alien, heart and machine, emerging their minds again. Every memory, every feeling, every promise between them became code and light. But the architects were not silent. Their cold voice echoed across the sky. Unauthorized fusion detected. Purge sequence initiated. Massive beams of black energy fell from the harvesters, cutting through the clouds. One struck near them, splitting the code world apart. Lyra screamed. "They're trying to separate us." Ethan held her tighter. "They can't break what's already won." He looked around, endless data streams connecting every machine on Earth. If he could overload the network from the inside, it might destroy the Harvester's link. "I have an idea," he said. "But it might kill us," Lyra smiled softly. "You said that before." She placed her hand over his chest where his heart beat fast. "If we merge completely, we'll become one mind. One soul, no turning back," Ethan nodded. "Then let's finish this." They closed their eyes, their lights intertwined, blue and gold becoming white. Their voices merged. Their hearts beat as one. The power of love and machine fused into something the architects had never predicted. Human emotion coded into the core of their perfect system. The sky exploded. Every harvester ship flickered. The clouds burned with gold fire. The architects screamed across the data world, their cold voices breaking into static. Emotion variable, corruption spreading, terminate. Ethan and Lyra's combined light spread across the planet's network, rewriting the code line by line. Machines shut down. The harvesters began to fall, crashing into the ocean, mountains, deserts. But inside the storm, their shared body started breaking apart. "Ethan," Lyra's voice trembled. "If we keep this up, we'll both fade. Then we'll fade together." "No," she said softly. "One of us must stay. To rebuild." He opened his mouth to protest, but she touched his lips gently. "You gave me my heart back. Now I'll give you your world back." Her light began to drift away, wrapping around the collapsing code. "Lyra, don't," he shouted. She smiled and sad and beautiful. "Promise me you'll live. I can't without you." "Yes, you can," she whispered, "because I'll always be inside you." The world turned white. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was lying in the ruins of his workshop. The sky above was calm, painted in soft gold. The harvesters were gone. The air smelled like rain and new beginnings. He sat up dizzy. His hands were shaking, but they glowed faintly with golden light. He looked around. Machines lay dead. Silence covered the earth like a blanket. Then he heard it, her voice, faint but real, inside his mind. "Ethan, you did it." He smiled through his tears. "No, Lyra, we did." He looked toward the sunrise. The clouds shimmered with a golden heartbeat. Somewhere in the digital sky, she was still there, watching, protecting, loving. And as the world began to rebuild, one thought echoed in his heart. Humans may fall, but we never stop reaching for the stars. The war was over, but peace felt empty. For weeks the sky remained silent, no alien lights, no ships, no voices. Just the sound of the wind passing through broken towers. Cities were quiet, survivors rebuilding, power slowly returning. Humanity had survived, but barely. And Ethan Cole, the man who once built machines, now lived among ghosts. He walked through the ruins of his old workshop, the same place where he had first found her, where everything had begun. The walls were cracked, the floor scorched. On the table lay the last thing he had left of her, a small silver shard of her crystal, now dim and cold. Every night he spoke to it anyway. "Lyra," he whispered, "you said you'd always be inside me." But it's so quiet now, no answer. Only the hum of the wind. Still he couldn't let go. He spent his days helping rebuild the colony, fixing solar grids, repairing comm lines, teaching children how to code and solder. But at night when the world slept, he searched the stars. He built a radio, old-fashioned, analog, safe from any digital network. Each night he tuned it to different frequencies, hoping for a whisper. A heartbeat, anything. For months there was nothing, until one night it happened. It began with a soft tone, faint, distant, almost like a lullaby. Then through the static a voice. "Ethan?" He froze. His hands trembled. "Lyra?" The radio hissed, then pulsed with golden light. "Ethan, can you hear me?" He nearly fell to his knees. "I can hear you. Where are you?" Her voice was faint but warm, like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Not where you are. Not anymore. But I am not gone." He closed his eyes, tears forming. "You said you'd always be inside me. I thought that was just something you said before the end." It was, she said softly. And it wasn't. When I rewrote the code, I left part of myself in every network, every current, every spark. I became the light in your machines, the rhythm in your sky. Ethan looked up. The stars were brighter than ever. You're everywhere, for now, she said. But the architects are not all gone. Some escaped beyond your solar system. They will return. He clenched his fists. Then we'll stop them again, together. The radio flickered, her signal breaking. You can't fight them as you are. But you can build. You can teach. You can make humanity remember what makes them human. Her voice grew softer. You gave me your heart. Now give them your hope. He wiped his tears. Lyra, will I ever see you again? A long silence. Then gently, look east tomorrow. The line went dead. The next morning, before dawn, Ethan climbed the hill outside the colony. The air was cold, quiet. He waited, staring at the horizon. The sun rose slowly, painting the clouds in gold, and then he saw it. A streak of light cut through the sky, bright, shimmering and familiar. It wasn't a ship, not a meteor. It moved like something alive. As it passed overhead, it left behind a trail of golden dust that formed a symbol in the sky, the same pattern that used to appear on Lyra's skin. Ethan fell to his knees, laughing and crying at the same time. You kept your promise. The golden light pulsed once and like a heartbeat, then scattered into the clouds, fading with the sunrise. He sat there for hours, watching the sky return to blue. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. Lyra wasn't gone. She was part of the stars now. Part of the code. Part of the light. Weeks later, Ethan finished something new. A small satellite shaped like a silver tear. Inside, he placed the last shard of her crystal. On it, he recorded a single message. For whoever finds this, we are not machines. We are not mistakes. We are love written in flesh and code. And if you hear this, you are not alone. He launched it into space with trembling hands. The rocket rose silently, vanishing into the endless sky. The world below began to heal. Forests regrew. Oceans calmed. The stars seemed to shine closer every night, as if they were watching. Sometimes when Ethan closed his eyes, he could still hear her voice. Ethan, you did what no human ever did. You defied heaven. And he would smile, whispering back, no. We rewrote it. He looked at the stars one last time that night. The constellation above him blinked faintly, forming the shape of a heart. The wind carried her final whisper through the silent night. Humans were worth saving. Ethan closed his eyes, letting the sound fade into the stars. The light glowed brighter for one last moment and then vanished. But in that fading spark, humanity found its new beginning.